Whoa. Okay, welcome back, guys. Obviously, we got the van, and yeah, it took way longer than I thought it was going to get out of the shop. I think it was there for like, I don't know, three months, which is ridiculous. But we were trying to figure everything out, and now we have it all in a list, so it'll be a lot easier next time. But in the meanwhile, I've been reading this and kind of brushing up on what I'm going to need to do. I've already put in like, I don't know, probably several hundred hours, not 700, but several hundred hours of research and just trying to figure out like how to do the floor, how to do the walls, how to do the plumbing, how to do the electrical, how to do lighting, how to do wiring, like where should the wiring go, what kind of bed am I going to do, and what kind of setup am I going to have. So I kind of figured out most of that. I'm on page like 100 of this, and honestly, it's been really good information, especially if you were totally new to the building process. I've already done one, but it wasn't a van; it was a truck, and it's kind of a little bit what I'll share with you today, because I got this van kind of because of my own personal healing journey, and for me, my alternative living journey, I guess if that's what you could call it, started probably 4 or 5 years ago when I was renting a room after a pretty bad time in my life. I just got out of not recently, but back then, several years ago, I had just gotten out of a really abusive marriage, and I ended up renting a room from a friend, and that ended up ending, so I rented a room from another friend, and that was like super healthy, probably the healthiest place I've ever been in my life up to that point, other than when I was spending time with my dad, because he made space for me. Like, he cleared out the fridge, he cleared out the room, he cleared out part of the garage, like just for me, and I wasn't even paying them that much for the room, which is actually really surprising. But I moved from that situation because he ended up getting married, which congratulations, bro, proud of you. But I ended up moving and went to probably the most unhealthy situation, where this was obviously during the pandemic, and I got sick, caught a cold, whatever it was, probably COVID, whatever. And the guy was hell-bent on kicking me out. And so I told him, just give me my money back and I'll leave, because I don't want to deal with you anymore. And so he gave me the money back, and I moved out, but I didn't really have anywhere to go. So I just figured, well, I might as well just stay in my truck. I already outfitted it for camping, and for the most part, it was pretty bare bones, but I put a camper shell on it recently, which, I did the video on this channel of doing that whole process, and I put a stove in my tailgate in that truck and did a whole bunch of things to it to make it kind of like camping worthy. And I knew it would work well, I just knew it was really small. So yeah, I ended up moving into my truck, and that went pretty good. Only problem was I figured out really quickly that I couldn't lock the back, and so the first night that I was out there, kind of just on my own trying to figure it out for myself, and this was a lot of years ago, so there wasn't as many van life videos of how-tos and stealth camping and all that good stuff. So I kind of just prayed about it and shut the back door and hoped that nothing bad happened, and thankfully nothing did. But I got on it right after that. I was like, there's no way I am doing that any more nights than I have to, because I wanted to be able to feel safe. As safe as you can feel living in the back of a truck. And I ended up just working on the truck constantly until I had everything pretty much finished. And actually, I wrote this down because there was a point that everything kind of clicked. And what happened was I felt peace for the first time in what felt like forever. I didn't have a nagging sense of the reality of rent and bills breathing down my neck. I remember being in the Walmart parking lot, watching the world around me, and people were scurrying everywhere from place to place, gathering possessions and running errands and, getting things done, right? and I didn't have a care in the world. And that was a big change. And I just had my car, and I had a storage unit at the time to put all my stuff in. Life was simple. It was easy. Dare I say, relatively effortless. I still had my job and work was good, but the need for work was so much less that I actually had the funds to eat what I wanted to for a change. I felt like I was finally living. To the outside world, they're hell-bent on status and achievement. I'm sure I looked like, a quote-unquote failure. But now I could see the truth that actually they were the ones that were stuck in the financially locked rat race that never seemed to end. And that started to reveal a bunch of things in my life and the world that I hadn't really considered because I didn't have the space to before, because I was constantly in survival mode up until that point. Which probably sounds kind of interesting, because aren't you surviving in the back of your truck? And it was like, yeah, still kind of am in survival mode, because obviously I don't have a restroom, I don't have a shower, I got to figure out, amenities, niceties, all the rest of these things that I was going to need. But that was kind of the best part, is that life was just eating, showering, driving, and working. It wasn't anything crazy. And there came a point where the lies started to surface, and I wrote a couple of them down because I wanted to share them with you. I realized I had been sold a lie that in order to be happy as a man, I had to be married. I realized that I had been putting off the life that I wanted to live because I was unknowingly aiming at a life that I thought I was supposed to be living, which exposed another lie. You have to wait for permission. At this point, all the lies started getting exposed, and I realized more than anything that nobody was going to come along and tell me that I can start living my dream now. And that was a big frustrating realization, because I had been the one running around, scurrying from place to place, getting errands done, trying to make something of myself, right? And most recently, because this is a couple years ago, obviously, most recently, I figured out that I wasn't being a human being, I was being a human doing. And I didn't have any silence in my life because I was trying to drown out the noise of the pain of the past. And that's why I'm doing this van build. It's for me. It's not for the likes. It's not for the hype. I bought this car because I wanted it. I didn't buy it because I thought it would get views. I actually didn't care at all. I just really like the way it drives. It's a Toyota. Legendary reliability, right? It's a 90s car. It's a 1996. That was the year where all the manufacturers were actually competing against each other to make really cool things. And better gas mileage, more longevity in a car, better parts. They just were better. And this is a 3-liter turbo diesel. And obviously it's not from around here, so parts are kind of hard to come by, but thankfully there's people in Canada that sell parts, and there's, the whole online world where you can pretty much get anything you want. You just have to wait a little while. So I'm a relatively patient person, so I figured, what the heck? I want this van. I really like it. It's a 10-passenger, high-top, long wheelbase, and it's pretty much the exact size I wanted to be able to build a self-contained stealth camper, because I don't want it to stand out. That's why I didn't go with a Sprinter van. They're too big. They stand out like a sore thumb. Their presence is commanding. I wanted something that looked kind of cute, unassuming, just looked like a family van, but a little bit bigger, because I wanted more space. So that's why I came to this, and it has more power than I expected it to have, but I mean, it's a 3-liter turbo diesel, so I should have expected that. And it's great. It drives like a dream. I love the way it steers. I love the way it feels. It doesn't feel top heavy, and I'm going to try to keep that, that weight capacity and the weight distribution consistent, so it still doesn't feel tippy from one side to the other. They overall did a really good job of making this van, which, by the way, is actually 30 years old now, which is pretty crazy because it's in decent condition. So anyhow, one of the last things I wanted to cover here was this point that I had written down, that thing that I was aiming at, that I didn't know I was aiming at, which I guess is somewhat purely an American thing as far as I can tell, but it's the American dream. But I understand it differently now, because the American dream is no longer what it was originally intended to be. It's a shell of its former self. And it's not about the pursuit of happiness necessarily. It's a different kind of happiness, but it's an external happiness, not an internal happiness. And that's the breakdown. Because now it's become the pursuit of possessions, status, achievement, success, whatever that means, and having it all. What does that even mean? Seriously, think about that. Like, what is having it all? What is all? What if you don't even want all of that? Have you even thought about that? Like, take a minute, pause the video, and think to yourself, what am I chasing in life? What do I actually want in life? Maybe you've never asked yourself that. I knew I hadn't. That's why I'm doing this. Because I figured out this is what I want to do. Because the best time in my life was when I was driving my El Camino from Idaho to California, and I was hitting all the lakes on the way down and taking my paddleboard out and just enjoying the sunshine and riding my e-bike and just enjoying life. Life was good. And I know that eventually that time was going to come to an end, which it did, but that's okay, because all seasons are going to come to an end. Every good thing is going to come to an end, but this is the beginning of this. This is the beginning of this season with this van. And Millie, who you've probably seen climbing up and down from the front to the back because she loves sitting in the driver's side, because that's usually where she's on my lap and we're having a blast driving down the road together. So the last part of this before I get into like my plan for the build is that the American dream has turned into the new slavery, but it's in a way of financial obligations that consistently bury you in debt and the mindset of, oh, we'll do it later. Once we pay it off, then we'll do it later. And everything becomes a subscription. Your house becomes a subscription. Your car becomes a subscription. Everything. It's not the way it should be, and we should not continue to let that happen. We should be living the lives that we were meant to live while we have the time. Because for me, I figured out I didn't want to spend my life at a dead-end 9-to-5 with zero respect. I don't need the house, and I don't care about what society rates my worthiness to be. If I do have or I don't have whatever the stupid latest thing is, and I don't think you should care about that either, because I think we spend a lot of our life spending money we don't have to buy things we don't need to impress people we don't even like. What's that all about? Think about that. For me, I didn't want to wait till I was old to do the things that I wanted to do when I was young. I didn't want to try to save up money to do later what I could do now. I want to travel the US. I want to visit friends. I want to visit family. I want to go fishing. I want to use the freedom that I have currently not to just fulfill myself, but to be of service to others, but to live that life that I want to. Not to do things for people that could do it for themselves, but to help people that are less fortunate, because I have the opportunity. And that's one of the most fulfilling things that you could do. And there's a saying that there's 10 steps to getting out of depression. And the first step is to do something for someone else. And the next 9 steps is repeat step 1. Obviously, that could be abused. And you could end up living your life for everyone else all over again, but in a different way. Essentially trying to prove to yourself that you're worthy because you serve other people, rather than serving other people because you come from a place of actually feeling worthy. You don't need to get anything out of it. So that's my thing. That's why I'm doing this. It's for me. Sorry, it's not for you. I care about you. I may not even know you, but you are worthy. The Bible says so. It proves over and over that God didn't make a mistake. You're not a mistake. And if you've been thinking that and you've been told that, it's a lie. And you should take time to get silent and to think on what you're thinking on, because the life you're living may actually be a lie. And as hard as that is to hear, to feel, and to eventually accept, it's better than living in denial for the rest of your days, getting to the end of your life and figuring to yourself, why did I do anything of what I did? What was the purpose? What was the reason? Why did I do that? I didn't even want to do that. Which is unfortunately a sad reality of most people when they get to the end of their life. They're very thankful for the things they did get to do, but they realize that what they did get to do wasn't exactly what they necessarily wanted. I'm not saying don't be thankful. I'm saying be intentional. Because if you're not intentional, somebody else is going to pretty much figure out how to live your life, which means they're going to tell you what to do with your life if you're not going to say what you want with it. Power is a vacuum, and people who want power are more than willing to fill that vacuum if you don't. So if you leave room for decisions to be made in your life, eventually somebody's going to come along that's going to make it for you, and they're going to make it sound good, and they're going to make it sound like you want that. But you never took the time to get silent and think and realize what you actually wanted in life. So please go ahead and do that. Pause this video. Get off of YouTube if you have to. Whatever you got to do to figure out what you need to be doing in your life, not just to be fulfilled personally, but so that you are actually living the life that you should be, not the one that you've been led to live. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. So yes, obviously that was a little bit heavier than it was intended to be, but I think that it's more beneficial than anything to really think about what you're thinking about. And I was thinking about a lot before I bought this van. I wanted to make sure that I was spending the money on the right thing at the right time in the right place to be able to do what I envisioned for myself. And that took a lot of planning. So this didn't happen in a week. This has taken, probably years of preparation, from doing my build with the El Camino to getting Millie and buying the van and just kind of everything falling into place. And I've done a lot of thinking on what features I want in the van here. And my number one thing is honestly a shower. I hated the feeling of having to leave the car, leave my truck, go into a gym, which to me felt dirty, which I feel like most people think gyms are dirty, which for the most part is true. No matter how much they clean or sanitize, there's sweat all over the place. It's kind of gross. So I didn't want to shower there, but that was my only option at the time. So a big thing for me is I want a shower, and I found some inspiration from a Japanese thing. What's it called? It's called an onsen. So it's a type of bathing pool, but there's this thing that you do before you get in the pool, and it's part of the onsen. It's like a pre-wash area. It's a little stool, and it's kind of its own private shower area. So that's kind of what I want to build in here, because I only have 5'4" worth of headspace, and that's before tearing out the current floor, adding insulation, and then also doing that to the roof, which I think is going to take another 1 or 2 inches away at least. So we'll see how that goes. But shower's number one. And the second thing I really wanted was a relatively full kitchen. Like, I wanted a good amount of counter space. I do not want induction. I don't like induction for some reason. For me anyway, I don't have like a pacemaker, at least as far as I know. But whenever I turn that thing on, my heart physically hurts. Like, it feels wrong. I don't know how to explain it. It just feels nasty. So I don't want that in my van. Apparently I'm relatively sensitive to electromagnetic frequency, and that's not something I want on the interior of a tin can. So yeah, that's out. So I'm going to end up probably doing gas, maybe some other form of electric cooktop, but I really am going to aim for a gas stove, whether that's like a little cooktop that I just take out of a drawer, or I have something built in with a nice cover over top of it. I'm going to figure that out later. My build philosophy is I'm going to focus on one thing at a time. I don't have a perfectly set out plan for this build. I was just reading this to make sure that I have my ducks in a row, so to speak. So I have the what to look at first. So that's the main thing of why I'm reading the book, and to get, any gaps in knowledge filled, so that I can do a more proper build and do this van some justice, because the interior is pretty tore up. That's the other reason that I bought this thing, because I knew I wasn't going to feel bad tearing out the back, because it was in not terrible disrepair, but enough disrepair where it would need a full redo back here to get it back to its original shape. But anyways, that kitchen, obviously I want a fridge with a freezer, the countertop space, like I said, and a medium-sized sink. I really like the farmer style sink, so we'll see what I can find there. And then I want like a hands-free trash can, so like when I'm cooking and whatever, I can just like step on something, it pops out, and I can throw away the trash and be done with it. Let's see here. The other thing was, oh yeah, I wanted to build it next to one of the windows here, because the windows are really nice, and I wanted to be able to open it up while I'm cooking and vent the steam and cooking smell out of the van. There's tons of windows in here. I think there are, there's 12 windows in the van, and 5 of the rear windows here can open, which is awesome. That gives me a ton of cross breeze and airflow if I need it. It was pretty hot today, so I just opened 3 of the windows, and it just blew out all the hot air within like 5 minutes, so I could film comfortably. But yeah, I'm thinking that the shower is going to be right next to the sink. I haven't really figured out yet if I'm going to do the faucet as the shower head, so I have one less plumbing fixture. But I saw this thing called the loop shower, and I've been really investigating that. I don't want to spend $5,000 on a shower, so yeah, I'm not going to buy it. But if I can, I'm probably going to build it. And that was one of the other goals with this van, is I don't want to spend any more than $5,000 on a build out. And the closer to $1,000 that I could get on a full kit build out on this thing, that's where I want to go with it. And I also want it to be ultra light. I don't want the gear and everything else in here to weigh over 500 pounds, which would give me pretty much the fantastic fuel economy that it already has, which I think is between 20 and 25 US miles per gallon. And with diesel being like $7 a gallon right now, yeah, I want to keep my fuel efficiency pretty high, because that's gonna hurt over the long haul. But obviously I'm in California currently, and we have essentially the highest gas prices in the nation. So once I vacate to go somewhere else to go see something different, then I'm going to end up paying quite a bit less in gas. So I'm kind of excited about that, as long as the market stays the same. That's a whole nother conversation. But anyways, that's not what this is about. The last part of what I want in the van here, which, you know, by definition is going to take up probably about a third of the van, it is the bed. And I don't want like a little sliver bed off to the side that takes up like a third of the back. I want a full size bed. But I'm pretty much 6 foot tall, and I don't have a lot of room from side to side in this van. It's only 5 feet across. And yeah, 5'4" tall, 5 foot across, and then it's 48 inches at the rear door. So that 5 foot space, obviously I can't stretch across. So I'm gonna have to sleep diagonal and make a shorter bed, or make a longer bed and lose a lot of kitchen space. So my plan is to make a convertible bed, which goes into 2 benches, because I really like that feel and that, you know, ability to, you know, like have friends over, play card games, have dinner with them, just hang out in the back. Like if there's weather outside and we don't want to be outside for whatever reason, we can come inside, turn on the AC, run the car, and just hang out. So that's a personal thing. That's what I want to do. And I also wanted to make kind of a walkway from the front to the back and be able to, you know, access all the doors and windows in the whole van. And that was, I guess, the next thing, which is insulation. It's pretty much not worthless to have insulation on anywhere there isn't windows, but I also want to put insulation over the windows as well. So I have kind of a plan for that, because I want that to also be usable space and insulated and able to be removed when I want it, so I can have like a full panoramic view through all the nice windows in here. So yeah, we're gonna be working on that. The first order of business, which is the coming video, I have to gut the interior here, and I need to put in the sunroof that I got for this build, which is going to be awesome, because I wanted a bunch of natural light back here, which the windows already have, but they came tinted, and I don't really want to take that off because I like the privacy factor, because I can't even see in, and I know what's inside the van. You know, like I can tell what's in here, but I can barely see through the film, which is kind of a bummer at night because I can barely see through the film. But I don't want to take that off and then have to put something else on. So I'm just going to leave it. And when I want to see out, I'm just going to remove the thing off the window, open the window, and there we go. I have a nice, clean, open, airy feel. And then when it's hot out, or I want to keep the hot air in, cold air in, shut the window, put the cover back on, and we're good to go. But yeah, that sunroof is going to help a lot with, you know, evacuating heat and being able to leave some portion of the van open but still have it locked, because I can't even fit through the sunroof and it's pretty skinny. So the main thing is just ventilation on that. But anyhow, thanks for tuning in. If this is your kind of a thing, then feel free to hit the subscribe button, and thanks for coming along for the journey. I hope you start your healing journey sometime soon, because it's definitely worth it. And by the way, I'll share this with you. The biggest lie that I believed was that the pain that I went through, that there was no way to redeem that pain in such a way to make it worth going through it. And that is a lie. And I know that to be true now, because I use the pain that I went through to bless and benefit other people so that they can be comforted in their time of sorrow. So anyhow, love you guys. See you later. Bye.
Mm-hmm.